A New Nation Forged in Debate, written by Ron Chernow. The American Revolution ended in 1783. A new nation was born, yet the journey was far from over. Americans now faced the daunting task of governing themselves. Strong differences of opinion emerged. These disagreements centered on the structure of the new government. How much power should the federal government have? How should states be represented? These questions fueled passionate debates. The answers would shape the destiny of the nation. The Articles of Confederation, adopted in 1777, proved inadequate. It created a weak central government. States held most of the power. This system led to chaos and instability. There was economic turmoil. The need for a stronger national government became clear. Thus began the debate that would give rise to America's first political parties. The rise of factions: Federalists versus Democratic-Republicans. Two distinct factions emerged from the fight over the Constitution. These factions were not just political groups but represented different visions for the future of the young nation. The Federalists, led by Alexander Hamilton, favored a strong central government. Hamilton believed that a robust federal structure was necessary to maintain order and stability. They believed this was essential for national unity and economic growth. The Federalists argued that a powerful central government could better manage the economy and foster development. They championed a loose interpretation of the Constitution. This approach allowed for flexibility in governance and the ability to adapt to changing circumstances. This meant they believed the government had implied powers beyond those explicitly stated. They saw these implied powers as necessary to address issues that the Founding Fathers could not have foreseen. On the other side stood the Democratic-Republicans, led by Thomas Jefferson. They feared centralized power. Jefferson and his followers were wary of a strong federal government, believing it could become tyrannical. They saw it as a threat to individual liberty and states' rights. The Democratic-Republicans championed the rights of states to govern themselves without undue interference from the federal government. They advocated for a strict interpretation of the Constitution. This meant adhering closely to the text and limiting the federal government's powers to those explicitly granted by the document. This meant they believed the government's powers were limited to those explicitly listed in the document. They argued that any powers not granted to the federal government were reserved for the states. These two groups, the Federalists and Democratic-Republicans, became the first political parties in the United States. Their debates and conflicts set the stage for the American political system. Their rivalry would shape the early republic and leave a lasting legacy on American politics. The ideological battles between these two parties influenced the development of the nation's political landscape and continue to resonate in modern times. Hamilton's vision: a strong central government and a national bank. Alexander Hamilton, the nation's first Secretary of the Treasury, was a staunch Federalist. He envisioned a powerful central government. This government would be modeled after Great Britain's system. He believed a strong federal government was crucial for several reasons. It could regulate commerce effectively, it could establish national credit, it could provide for the nation's defense. Central to Hamilton's economic plan was the establishment of a national bank. This bank, he argued, would provide a stable currency. It would manage government funds, it would stimulate economic growth. Hamilton also favored tariffs. These are taxes on imported goods. He believed they would protect American industries, they would promote domestic manufacturing. Jefferson's counter-agrarian ideals and limited government. Thomas Jefferson, the nation's first Secretary of State, offered a starkly different vision from his contemporaries. His ideas were rooted deeply in the belief that the strength of the nation lay in its agrarian roots and the independence of its citizens. A staunch Democratic Republican, Jefferson championed a decentralized government. He believed that power should remain primarily with the states and the people. This was in stark contrast to the Federalists, who advocated for a strong central government to unify the nation. He feared a strong central government. He saw it as a potential tool for tyranny. He believed it would erode individual liberties. Jefferson's vision was one where the federal government had limited powers, strictly defined by the Constitution. Jefferson's ideal America was an agrarian republic. Independent farmers would be the backbone of the nation. He believed that these farmers living off their own land would be self-sufficient and virtuous, contributing to a stable and moral society. He viewed Hamilton's emphasis on commerce and manufacturing with suspicion. He feared it would lead to corruption. Jefferson believed that a focus on industry would create a class of wage laborers who were dependent on their employers, rather than being independent and self-reliant. He believed it would create a dependent class of wage laborers. This, he argued, would undermine the virtue of the republic. Jefferson's vision was one where every citizen had the opportunity to own land and be their own master, free from the control of others. Jefferson opposed the national bank. He saw it as an unconstitutional expansion of federal power. He believed that such institutions concentrated too much power in the hands of a few, which could lead to economic manipulation and inequality. He favored a strict interpretation of the Constitution. This limited the government's power. It protected individual rights. Jefferson's philosophy was that the best government was one that governed the least, allowing individuals the freedom to pursue their own paths. A world-divided foreign policy clashes between France and Britain. Foreign policy further exposed the growing rift between Federalists and Democratic-Republicans. The French Revolution presented a particularly divisive issue. The Federalists, led by Hamilton, viewed the French Revolution with skepticism. They feared its radicalism. They worried about its potential for chaos. They favored neutrality in the conflict between France and Great Britain. They sought to maintain strong economic ties with Great Britain. The Democratic Republicans, on the other hand, sympathized with the French revolutionaries. They admired their ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity. Jefferson, a Francophile, believed America had a moral obligation to support France. He viewed the French Revolution as an extension of the American fight for independence. This difference in opinion led to heated debates. It influenced American foreign policy for years to come. Shaping a nation. The enduring impact of early political disputes. The ideological battles between Federalists and Democratic Republicans had a profound impact on the early American Republic. They shaped the political landscape. They influenced the development of government institutions. They left a legacy that continues to resonate today. The rivalry between Hamilton and Jefferson in particular highlighted the fundamental tensions inherent in governing a diverse nation. Their disagreements over the role of government, the balance of power, and the rights of individuals remain central to American political discourse. The two-party system, established in those early years, has become a defining feature of American democracy. Though the Federalist Party eventually dissolved, its emphasis on a strong national government continues to influence American politics. Echoes of the past Federalist and Republican ideals in modern America. The political landscape of the United States has always been shaped by the tension between differing ideologies. From the very inception of the nation, the Federalists and Democratic Republicans laid the groundwork for the debates that continue to shape our society. The echoes of those early political rivalries can still be heard in the corridors of power today. The fundamental questions that divided the Federalists and Democratic Republicans remain relevant, influencing the policies and decisions made by our leaders. The fundamental questions that divided the Federalists and Democratic Republicans remain relevant. These questions are not just historical footnotes, they are the very issues that continue to drive political discourse in modern America. How much power should the federal government have? This question has been at the heart of American politics since the drafting of the Constitution, and it remains a contentious issue today. What is the best way to balance individual liberty with the common good? This debate is as old as the nation itself, and it continues to be a central theme in political discussions. These questions continue to be debated. In town halls, legislative chambers, and public forums across the country, Americans are still grappling with these fundamental issues. The modern-day Republican and Democratic parties, while vastly different from their predecessors, still grapple with these fundamental issues. The ideologies may have evolved, but the core questions remain the same. The debate over healthcare, for example, often centers on the role of government in providing for the welfare of its citizens. This is a direct reflection of the ongoing struggle to define the balance between federal power and individual rights. The ongoing discussions about gun control reflect the tension between individual rights and public safety. This issue, like many others, is deeply rooted in the ideological battles that have shaped American history. The echoes of Hamilton and Jefferson's rivalry remind us that the American experiment is an ongoing process. Their debates set the stage for the continuous evolution of our political system. It is a constant negotiation between competing visions of what the nation should be. As we move forward, the lessons from our past continue to inform and shape the future of American democracy.